It's that time of the week again, Friday Night Meta, our weekly series here on the channel, and I'm excited to bring you the latest, the greatest, and the best decks for you to improve your game as always. On top of that, whether you're a veteran, whether you're a new player, we'd love to see it and break things down for you here today. So thank you for tuning in. Down below, you'll find the timestamps where I walk through each of the formats, best of one and best of three here. Additionally, we'll pull it all back together as we always do. Now, if you got a question, if you have a comment, do let me know because I love to hear from you. What are you playing? What are you thinking? Which decks do you like? Which ones don't you like? And also feel free to swing by the Discord server and join our awesome community there as well. All right, so here's what we got going on. Standard best of one. Here's where we're sitting right now. We do have mono white humans as the number one deck. Again, starting to create a little bit more of a distance once again here. We'll take a look at that on the trends, but then we got Selesnya enchantments, the aggro red list, 5-color domain, mono black control, mono black midrange, and mono blue tempo. Now this is at an aggregate, and now we'll have some more information here at Mythic. Then on the right, you can see the popularity there. Really the top 4 lists really making up most of it. Here we can see the trending over time, but again, these things are starting to fall off. Players are starting to play a couple of the other things as well. And here you do see that win rate. Mono white has stayed fairly steady at the top. Selesnya enchantments, again, kind of being really close, number 2 with the red list. And then here we do start to see that mono black control having a nice climb, and mono blue tempo also having a nice climb, and 5-color domain also having a nice climb. So things that we'll pay attention to here as things unfold. But let's go ahead and take a look at Mythic. Here at Mythic, though, we have a little bit different flavor in best of one. We have Naya humans, Esper Legends, and 5-color domain. So a little bit different and a little bit things tricky to pay attention to. Nonetheless, we also see Azor's control here. So a rather different take and flavor here in Mythic relative to the broader, bigger system as we like to see across. So that's pretty important for us to see. Lots of differences there and things that we'll pay attention to as well. All right, so best of 3. Here's what we got going on. Azor Soldiers on the top. Dimmer midrange, 4-color domain, mono black control, mono red aggro, Selesnya enchantments, Esper control, and 5-color domain. On the right, dimmer control or dimmer midrange, Esper control, mono black, and then everything else. You can look at this popularity of dimmer midrange just absolutely excelling. We see that Esper control coming back up, everything else kind of falling off or maintaining. And then here you'll see that win rate over time. That dimmer midrange does pop back up there. We do see that 4-color domain in there. A nice rise though in Selesnya enchantments. At the top, we also see a bottom and up with Esper control, similar with Azor's control. So lots of movement here in best of 3. Let's go ahead and see what's going on in Mythic. In Mythic, we do have Azor Soldiers, 4-color domain, 5-color domain, dimmer midrange, and Esper control as well. So that is Mythic for us. Again, Azor Soldiers, in terms of that win rate, we can see right there. Where are you? Azor Soldiers. Here we go. Azor Soldiers way ahead. Let's add it. Look at that. Huge difference. Keep an eye on that for sure. And again, that's a function of the meta, which is awesome. All right, that concludes standard. Let's go ahead and check out Alchemy. So in Alchemy, here's what we got going on. Dimmer control, followed by mono red burn, Rakdos sacrifice, Nazgul in there, Grixis midrange, mono black midrange, 5-color legends, mono red aggro, and then on the right again, heavily dominated by Nazgul, dimmer control, mono red, Rakdos sacrifice. You can see how mono red has fallen off, but the rise, the Nazgul, has been pretty solid again since Lord of the Rings. We do see dimmer control kind of falling off, and then we do see this bottom one kind of picking back up, one of the aggro lists. Now, interestingly enough, we see Rakdos Sacrifice doing very well here, similar with Mono Red Burn, and then everything kind of pulling back down, and Dimmer Control really staying steady and making things work and kind of pulling that meta back in. Let's go ahead and see what's going on in Mythic. Not much at all in Mythic, so we'll go back out. Let's go ahead and move over to Best of 3. What's going on in Alchemy Best of 3? We do have Rakdos Sacrifice, Grixis midrange, Rakdos midrange, 5-color legends, Jund, and Mono Black. And then here on the right, definitely on Rakdos, Sacrifice, or Grixis for the most of it. You can see that here in terms of its popularity. It is slowing on Grixis midrange, and that Rakdos Sacrifice just loading out and owning that meta right now in terms of what's happening in best of 3. We can take a peek at Mythic, but we're just going to see Grixis. All right, there we go. We'll pull all the way back. Let's go back to best of 1 and move over to Historic. So Historic, again, we've had a few different things. We've had Lord of the Rings. We've also had the Explorer Anthology. So we've probably fairly steady in where we're at in the meta. We've gotten through the reset here for August as well. Interestingly enough, Gates still continues to be a pretty popular list. And on top of that, it is only at 45%. Now, we do have Squirrel Twin doing well. Is it Wizards, Mono Black Control, Rakdos, Midrange, Dimmer Control, Mono Green Elves in there, and Jund Midrange. On the right, again, heavily dominated, really kind of by those top 3. Really, mostly is it Wizards? Everything else kind of within that 5 to 2.5%. As we see this popularity over time, again, pretty tight. We do see that Rakdos midrange kind of pulling across, that Temur Gates falling off, probably again because that win rate makes sense. And then here you see that is it Wizards dominating, but then recently Selesnya Squirrel Twin, also Sultai Dredge in there to pay attention to, and a few other things nonetheless. So those are a lot of the top played lists. For us in best of 1 Historic. Let's see if Mythic's kind of representing the same thing, or if it looks a little bit different. There is some difference here with Mono Black Control, Sultai Dredge, and Rakdos Midrange. Here you go in terms of popularity, a lot more popular as well. So those are big things to pay attention to as we continue forward here for Historic for the rest of August. All right, best of 3. Here's what we got going on best of 3. Golgari Yawgmoth at the top. Is it Wizards, Dimmer Control, Mono Green Devotion, Jund Midrange, Rakdos Midrange, Naya Domain Zoo, and Temur Gates. So that one's a little bit new, I think. Rakdos Midrange, Dimmer Control, Golgari, Temur Gates, Jund Midrange, Mono Green Devotion, Is it Wizards, and that Naya Domain Zoo. As we scroll down here, you can see some of that popularity. Again, Temur Gates falling down. We do see that Rakdos Midrange doing well. Everything else fairly steady. That Naya Domain, there you go. And then here you see Golgari Yawgmoth fall down, but getting back up to where it was, almost the 70s in terms of that win rate. Here we had a nice pop in Is it Wizards. Again, where we do see a drop in Gates. And again, we're seeing the same thing here. And then on top of that, as we pay attention, we see that Rakdos Midrange really moving around, and also that Mono Green Devotion starting to creep back in. Naya Domain pretty consistent there in terms of win rates as well. So let's go ahead and look at Mythic. Any differences here in Mythic? We got Rakdos Midrange and Dimmer Control and percent played. So those are all good things to pay attention to. All right, so that concludes our Historic best of 3 and best of 1. Let's go check out Explorer. So Explorer best of 1, we have Mono White Humans, Mono Red Aggro, Selesnya Angels, Abzan Greasefang, Mono Green Devotion, Rakdos Sacrifice, Rakdos Midrange, and Temur Creativity. On the right, big kind of 3 buckets here with the top 3, the mid 3, and then the bottom 2. Here, popularity over time, we can see really the big ones, Abzan Greasefang falling off. We also do start to see Mono White Humans falling off, and we do see Temur Creativity falling off. While we witness a rise in Rakdos Midrange, Mono Red, we also have pretty steady eddies here in terms of Mono Green Devotion and Selesnya Angels. Now look at this, really big arc here in Mono White Humans, and everything else kind of arcing up too towards the last week or two. Probably more so again as the season continues, some of the meta gets sorted out, or additionally, more players are playing off meta decks, and you start to see these kind of compress here in terms of popularity, which is kind of what's going on. So these kind of key main decks tend to have a higher win rate because of everything else they're playing, as an example. So that's a big interesting piece of information for us in Explorer. Let's go ahead and see Mythic, Mono White Humans, and Selesnya Angels there. All right, all the way back out, let's check out best of 3. Best of 3 Explorer, this is what we have going on. Mono White Humans, Abzan Greasefang, Rakdos Sacrifice, Mono Green Devotion, Rakdos Midrange, Temur Creativity, Zorus Lotus Field, and 5-color Fires. Here on the right, you'll see really the kind of 2 groups, top 4, bottom 4 kind of a thing. And then here, popularity over time, Mono Green Devotion still continues to do well. We see a rise and pickup in Abzan Greasefang and Mono White Humans. some falls and some of the other stuff as well. And then here in terms of win rates, this one down here is Aura's Control popping in and out above that 50%. Again, everything else kind of really moving around in terms of what's happening over the course of a week, which is always nice to see. Let's go ahead to Mythic. Mythic here, we do have Azor's Spirits at the top. Mono White Humans, Rakdos Midrange, Azor's Lotus Field Sacrifice, Team of Creativity, Abs and Greasefang, Mono Green Devotion here on the right. Kind of the top 3, 2, and bottom 3 as an example of breaking those things out here for Explorer Best of 3. So let's pull all the way back. We are going to now go to Historic Brawl. So that concludes the Best of 1 and Best of 3s. Let's see what we have here in Historic Brawl this week. We have Atraxa back on top, Ragavan there, Rusko, Xenagos, Itali, First Sliver, Emoti, and Atraxa, Praetor's Voice. Here on the right, again, typically 2% to get in. Let's go ahead and see how things are trending. There's that Itali popularities there. We do see Atraxa falling off. We see everything else kind of, right around that 2%. And then here in terms of win rate, we do see that switch between Ragavan and then again that switch back up with Atraxa. Everything else, interestingly, is kind of trending down here, at least within the last week. So that's pretty important to see and pay attention to, as always. Now, that most played list, we do not see the Lord of the Rings stuff there really anymore. So that's a big thing to pay attention to in terms of Historic Brawl, whereas we'd seen them for quite some time. However, those win rates were fairly sub 50%. So that is that here for today. Let's pull it all back together. As always. So with that, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We did see some pretty cyclical stuff going on in the meta, which I always like. Kind of depends on the week, to be honest. But again, it's also with the reset and timing of the season. Now, once we've passed about halfway through, we start to see a little bit more solid Mythic outpace everything else, and kind of again that segmentation begins to be a little bit more clear here in Best of 1 and Best of 3 and the different formats. So with that, I just want to always, as always, say thank you. I truly appreciate your support. Thank you for the likes and the subs as we grow this amazing community, and thank you to all the members and everyone else that goes above and beyond. Down below, we do have great ways to stay in the know, great ways to support the channel. And also, don't forget to come swing by the Discord server and join our active community there, because we have a lot of fun. So thank you to everyone for that too. Hope you enjoyed today's breakdown, go through of the different meta, the formats in Best of 1 and Best of 3. Again, questions, comments, let me know. I love to hear what you're playing. We're doing a lot of crazy deck lists. I'm enjoying it for sure as we start to get into the new Eldraine stuff. And with that, have a great week. As always, we got a ton of great content available to you here. We'll see you next week, and we got more content coming your way. Take care.